On the discovery of these crimes in Southern California, a media circus followed. Banner headlines, normally reserved for the outbreak of war, trumpeted every gruesome detail. America read that Manson led the marauding killers, that he held drug and sex orgies at his makeshift ranch, that he commanded others to kill to prove their love and loyalty to him. At the trial, Manson called himself a child of the system. Some said he had satanic powers. Now, 12 years later, at the age of 47, Charles Manson remains in prison, serving a life term at the California Medical Facility at Vacaville. I interviewed Manson last Saturday at the jail. You will see most of that tonight. It has been edited only for purposes of time, and also because the language at times was rough, very rough. Certain words have been taken out. Some people might ask, why run the Charles Manson interview? Well, television is supposed to make all of us look at ourselves. And that responsibility goes beyond picturing all of us as normal and rational people who are suddenly shocked when the time bomb of insanity goes off in our midst. To not run the Charles Manson interview now would be to ignore his perversity and that of others, which now and again disrupts our lives. To ignore it, to pass the interview by, would mean accepting wickedness and insanity in place of dealing with its problems. The Charles Manson interview will probably provoke dismay, possibly fear, even some anger. I hope it provokes some thought. It begins right after this. Tell me about your life here in prison. Do you read newspapers? Do you listen to the radio? Do you watch television? Do you communicate with people on the outside? What goes on for Charles Manson in this prison?
Well, I can feel the grass growing out there on the lawn, and there's a few trees that's got some leaves on it that I can feel. And I've been in jail all my life, so I'm actually right here at home. How long have I been in jail? 34 years? 34 years, so...
Out of 47, you've been here 34.
I've been in jail, prison, a long time, all my life. I was raised up in here. So I understand jail, so I understand myself, and I can deal with that. I sit in my cell, and I do my number, like a convict does his number.
You like jail, don't you?
I don't dislike or like.
Let's go back to 1967, the time you were winding up serving a term of number of years, 10 years. And written accounts indicate that you told the authorities, don't let me out. I can't cope with the outside world. Do you have a recollection of that?
You make a desperate plea out of something, man. There's no desperate plea out of it. I say I can't handle the maniacs outside. Let me back in.
I didn't use the word desperate. That's your word, Charles.
Yeah, well, your inflection and your voice tones were implications there.
Well, you use the word maniacs on the outside. How are you different from the maniacs on the outside? And why do you call them maniacs? Because you know something, they think you are one.
Yeah, it would reflect. If you hold the negative up to the light, you don't see the light, you just see the negative. So I'm a reflection of your negative, there's no doubt about that, and I can handle that also. I've been handling, ain't I?
I don't know, have you?
Well, I've been up and down these damn hallways, in and out of these nut wards for the last 10 years. You think you could follow that act?
Don't want to follow that act.
Yeah,
I don't want to get into it. But why do you want to get into that?
Well, what crowd? What crowd you playing for?
Huh?
I'm playing for my life. You working for money.
What does that mean? You're playing for your life?
I'm working for my life, mister. I'm not playing for money.
What do you mean you're working
for keeps?
What do you mean you're working for your life?
I'm playing for real.
What does that mean? You're playing for real. How are you playing for your life?
That's something you can't buy.
When you say you're playing for your life, am I to assume that you think that someday you're going to get out of here?
Get out of here. Get out of here. Where would I go now? See.
What would you do if you got out of here?
I got out of here.
What if they said to you tomorrow morning, Charles, hey, listen, you're free. You can go wherever you want to go. Do whatever you want to do. What would you do?
I'll probably go out front on the grass and sit down.
For how long?
For, right now. How long? I could put a track record on it, or I could put a computer on it.
Come on down. No, come on down. Get off computers, get off tracks. If you got out of here, there are a lot of people who think you'd go start killing people again.
Again? Well, you guys are misinformed. I haven't killed anyone.
What about Shay?
What about him?
Well, what about him?
He got killed.
Well, the word is you killed him. Word is you stabbed him. What does it feel like to kill
word.
somebody, Charles?
Word is that you're an old woman. Word is you have turkey in the sky. Word is, I don't know what word is. Somebody else tell you that. I didn't tell you that.
Did you kill Shay?
Hell no.
Did you cut Hinman's ear off?
Hell yes.
How did that feel when you cut his ear off?
I felt bad.
Truth is fun, though. Isn't the truth fun now when you
sure.
You cut his ear off. What did it feel like?
Fun? My goodness.
What did it feel like when you cut his ear off?
Huh?
Tell me about it. Come on.
What did it feel like?
Yeah.
Well, I had done what he said for about 20 years. I'd done everything he told me to do. And I got to thinking, now, why don't this guy do something I tell him to do? And he said, no. I said, well, how comes I'm always doing what you tell me to do, but then you never do what I say do? And he said, well, blah, blah, blah. So I said, now you do what I say. And he said, no. I said, you do exactly what I say. And he said, no. I'm telling you. I'm not asking you. I'm telling you. You do exactly what I say. And he said, wow, where'd you get that? I said, I got it from my father in prison. He gave it to me. I had a little charm bracelet I used to carry it on when I was about that big.
So skip that for a second.
Yeah.
Why was it so important for him to do what you say? Why do you like having people do what you want them to do? Why do you want to control them, Charles?
Wait a minute. No, I was asked. The dude asked me, he says, you my brother? I said, yeah, I'm your brother. He said, how much are you my brother? I said, completely. See, if I'm going to explain it to you, it's not going to be that easy. So you're going to have to bear with me. So, Bobby said, he was a young dude, and he said, I'm your brother. I said, okay.
Bobby?
I'm your brother. Beausoleil. I just got out of prison.
Wait.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah, well, then we're gone with that thought.
No, because you're getting on
Then we'll go to another one, and then you make me look crazy.
No. You can make yourself look crazy, Charles. Okay. I can't make you look crazy, and please believe me.
All right. I'll believe you, and I'll put it in my left-hand pocket for later.
Let me take you back to you wanting this man, Hinman.
I cut the dude's ear off because he was over Bobby. And Bobby was a youngster and really didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he was a kid, and he never had no man show him nothing, see? So I was telling the boy, I said, the guy, he says, you got my money. I said, go and get the money or leave him alone.
You're taking me to another story.
No, I'm trying to tell you the same thing, and we'll be here for 1,000 years unless you let me finish it.
No. We won't be here for that long at all if you'll just speak to this one point.
What is it? Why cut the dude's ear off, man? That's the point.
I didn't ask you that. I said, why was it important to you to make Hinman do what you wanted him to do?
Because he had a gun.
And if one follows your story through the times on the ranch down in Southern California, it was important for Charles Manson to be a leader, to have people follow him.
Come on, district attorney. See, you're full of brainwash. That's a district attorney. I'm nobody's leader, and I'm nobody's follower. I got a parole officer. I got a sleeping bag and a guitar, and I'm staying at an old blind man's ranch. And that's about the extent of it. All this occult, all that hocus-pocus stuff that you guys are playing, I don't know nothing about all that.
You know nothing about something called Helter Skelter. You know nothing about...
Yeah, I know about Helter Skelter. It was a song that some people sang.
And that's all it was.
And some other kids picked it up in their minds. And they said, what do you think Helter Skelter is? I said, well, I get out of the penitentiary in the 50s, and everybody's going thump, 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 and they're walking like that. I get locked back up, I get out in the penitentiary in the 65, and it's going thump, 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 and I get locked up again, and I come out in the 69, it's going thump, 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 singing, wow, man, wow.
Wow, what? Wow, what? Come on,
well, I was a beatnik. I was a beatnik in the 50s before the hippies came along. You know, I cut a rut down through Acapulco, and I smoked Acapulco before you knew what it was. And I lived in the Tombs, and I was in the Cook County Jail in Chicago when you were playing cricket in high school, see? Like you live in another world. I live in street people's world.
Manson had a little scheme called creepy crawlers. He'd send people in to move furniture around. Is that all a figment of somebody's imagination so far, or is there any truth to that? Tell me, Charles. I don't know.
It's worse than a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a comedy. It's a comedy tragedy opera that was played in the early morning.
Come on, Charles.
It was sickening.
Off the space shuttle.
You know. Well, that's what the DA gave you for reality.
Okay.
He stood in the courtroom and said, this man did this and this man did that, and you all believed him. He said, this man did that. And I said, Your Honor, may I speak? And they said, no, you can't speak. I said, Your Honor, I got a voice. Let me talk. He said, no, sit down. Shut up. Then they handcuffed me, take me in the back, whip my... What are you going to do? I come out and sit down, and I ain't going to get whipped again.
Didn't you stand up in that courtroom?
Sure, I stood up.
By the way, let me just go
back. I felt the repercussions in the back of it.
Okay, but you say the whole thing's a fairy tale. You say the whole thing is make-believe.
Yeah, that's his helter-skelter. It wasn't mine.
The body of Sharon Tate is make-believe.
That's make-believe.
Make-believe.
That's make-believe to the people that went in there and did what they did.
Mm-hmm. And who were those people? But you know who they were.
Sure, I know who they were.
They were with you at the Spawn Ranch. They were part of this thing called, if not the Manson family or the Manson cult, the Manson Ranch. Call it what you will.
So then, what?
And Tex Watson testified in a court of law that you told him, go to the house that Terry Melcher used to live in and kill those people in a most gruesome way. A man that was once your associate said that of you, and now you sit here and say that's not true, that's all make-believe?
You got a stone wall there. Why don't you take it down a little bit? Look here. I'll explain something to you. Tex took the witness stand, and this is record, and he said, I don't know whether I'm Charlie Manson or my mother. Tex didn't have his own mind one way or the other. He was balanced back and forward because I had already took his mind in another game down the road that I was playing with some Hell's Angels that you don't know nothing about, and you probably never will know nothing about it because you would have to know those people to get in that thought, see? But there's different colors on different people's backs doing different things. It's a different world. I love the world I live in, too, just like Regan loves the world he lives in.
You love the world you live in.
Most assuredly, it's me.
You love all the pain that you've caused people, all the anguish you've caused.
I don't know pain. I don't know pain. I have no depth of pain. I have no depth of suffering. I don't know ridicule. I don't know all the bad things. I haven't been punished by you all my life since I was 10 years old. I've been in every reform school you got across the country and used to lay down and have to get my ass whipped till I couldn't walk. Tell me about some pain.
And that's our fault. That's all those people...
No fault. Make strong, good pain. Understand pain. Not bad. Pain's not bad. It's good. It teaches you things. It teaches you things. Like when you put your hand in fire, you know not to do that again. Yeah. Yeah, I understand that.
But how come you didn't
That's the reason I never stick my hand in fire.
Oh, but excuse me. You've been putting your hand in the fire since you were a little boy.
I have?
You just told me a couple of minutes ago that out of 47 years, you've spent 34 of them behind bars. Now, if that isn't keeping putting your hand in the fire, I don't know what is.
What year was that?
The year's not important. What's important is you just say that you learn by pain not to experience again. Don't put your hand back in the fire.
Yeah.
Why you've been in and out of prisons for the last for 34 of your 47 years? You call that normal behavior, Charles? Is that something that you're proud of?
No, never. Well, I never thought I was normal. Never tried to be normal. Normal runs in a little rut down there. I don't know nothing about being normal. I've been in jail all my life, man. I've lived on a handball court. This guy raised me up. All the men in the joint raised me up, told me what to do, what was right and wrong, told me when to sit down, stand up. I just did everything I was told. You know, and I got to the end of it, and I just turned around and said, wow,
all right, now that's hard.
You know, and then I went outside, and all these little kids got a hold of me and said, we want to stop the Vietnam War, and we want to do this. What? It was a war? I don't know what's happening. I've been in jail all my life, man. I never went to vocational. You ever see me in vocational training, rehabilitation? Never played no rehabilitation. I sweep the floor in the kitchen. Go out and play handball. I'm still 10 years old in your world. Your world, I'm still a kid. I'm not going to grow up. I'm not going to go to college.
How old are you in your world?
Forever. Since the breakfast. I can't remember what
I don't know what that means. Come on, off the space shuttle, Charles.
Yeah, it's off the space shuttle.
How old are you in your world?
How old am I? I'm as old as my mother told me. How's that?
Your mother. Tell me about your mother. What did your mother tell you?
My mother told me when she worked on death row and they took that dude in to hang him and his head popped off and went down them 13 stairs and rolled over by her. It scared the You know, so I said, wow, that sure is a far-out trip, Mom. So then when I got up on death row in cell 13 for 9 counts of murder, 1969, and I looked at her fears, that guy's head popping off that hangman's noose, And I said to myself, my goodness, what the hell am I doing here? I didn't want to come here. I didn't break the law. The judge knew that. But the people didn't want to hear it. The judge knew it. He washed his hands. He said, I know it, but what can I do? People want this.
The judge never said that.
Yeah.
Judge never said
That's what Older said.
No, judge didn't say that.
He got off and shook their hands, didn't he?
Judge did not say that he washed his hands.
He's a flying tiger, man, for Madam Chiang-Kai-shek. I just wrote a letter.
Judge didn't say that you were innocent, Charles.
Innocent?
Let's go back to your mother.
Innocent? Wait a minute. Let's get back to that word, innocent. You're so white and pure?
Judge didn't say you were innocent.
Are you innocent?
Innocent of what?
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
None of us are innocent.
Yeah, just because you're convicted in a courtroom doesn't mean you're guilty of something.
What does mean you're guilty?
Well, you know you're guilty.
And how do you feel about yourself? Tell me about you.
I feel pretty good.
Let me take you back to your mom.
Take me back to...
What else did she talk to you about besides the fellow whose head popped off?
The head popped off, yeah. She was living in the Blue Moon Cafe, and she hit a dude in the head with one of them bottles of Jim Beam whiskey. She tried to hustle a few dollars on the corner, but there wasn't no money. So when she jammed this whiskey bottle upside that clown's head, he went down. She took the bread, come up and got me, and we left, went to Indiana.
When you were a boy, did you love your mother?
I didn't know what that was.
Did you respect your mother? How did you feel about you? How do you feel about your mom right now? If your mother, I don't know if she's alive, Charles, or not.
Yeah, you don't, huh?
Do you?
Let's see. Alive now. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe.
I mean, if she could be watching this right now,
be watching.
What would you say to her, Charles?
Oh, well,
what would you say to Mom?
I'd say, you sure went through a whole lot of changes to get me as far as you did. And you did a damn good job with the help of my grandma. My grandma was a mountain girl from Kentucky, up in the mountains. And she never did drink or smoke or cuss or lie. She used to cook for the Salvation Army, and she was a human being. Good one. I go to church down there and sweep the floor for her.
Well, how were you in school? I hear that you weren't too good, but maybe I heard wrong.
Depends on which school. I did very well in reform school.
Yeah.
I did good in every place that I was ever told to do good in, as much as I was allowed to do. You know, a lot of times good for some might not be the same for others, and sometimes it kind of bumps heads. But when it does, then I just chew on my pipe and think about it. And do the best I can.
But
you dealt the hand down there in L.A. You in that press, you in that L.A. Times, you dealt the hand. You put me on Life magazine, had me convicted before I walked in the courtroom. You had what people wanted to buy. When they wanted to buy it, they didn't give a damn if they had to convict the district attorney. They'd have convicted the whole building to get that dollar bill going there. They had big bucks going there. They made 27 million, 1,000, 100 billion. I'm bumming $10, $15 from my friend here.
About this before, but I'm going to make it. I'm going to try it one more time. You can see them where I'm.
You got a pistol on you?
No, sir. They wouldn't let me in here if I had a pistol.
Yeah.
You know that as well as I do. So why even ask the question? Okay.
Well, I just thought you might not like what I've done. You want to do something about it.
I don't much care for what you've done.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't. How do you feel about that? A lot of people think you're a monster, Charles. How do you feel?
They think you're a monster because you reflect this news media on me. Cult leader. I never had long hair before I got busted. I never had a beard before I got busted. I went to shave, and the guy said, no, you can't shave. And I said, I need a razor to shave. He said, no, you can't shave. I said, let me get a haircut. He said, no, we don't want you to change your appearance. So when you put the camera first on me, you got long hair and a beard. First time in my life I ever had long hair and a beard.
You want to shave and get a haircut? I'll shut him off while you go get a shave and a haircut.
Am I telling him right? I'm not of this generation.
You want to shave and a haircut right now? I'll shut him down right now. You want to shave and a haircut?
Yeah. I was trying to explain to you, man, that a lot of they pushed off on me is not me. They said I had a great family and I was a following and leaders and all that. There was no followers and leaders, a bunch of kids out at the ranch playing. To me.
Playing at what?
Playing at living.
The accounts say that you gave him dope. I'm just saying what the accounts say. I'm not saying I know it to be so, so here's your chance to say it wasn't true, okay? That there was a lot of hanky-panky, that turned the girls on with dope and sex out there. That's
what they said.
All right, that's what they said. Well, are they wrong?
Oh, well, I went down to Haight-Ashbury, and a little kid, 10 years old, come up and said, "You want an acid pill?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "This is good. Make colors go." I said, "No, I heard about them things. I don't want none of that." And then another little kid was rolling a joint. And they were sitting there smoking a joint and asked me if I wanted one.
What'd you say?
I said, "I used to smoke this stuff in the 60s, but never in the 50s. But it really wasn't that, you know, it was funny, but it's not."
How much dope did you use in your lifetime? Were you a heavy user of dope?
No, I smoked a little grass, and I've taken some acid, mescaline, psilocybin, peyote, mushroom. But actually take dope, no, nothing. I wouldn't take anything with it I feel would hurt me.
Do you feel that those things that you just mentioned hurt you at all, Charles?
Physically or spiritually?
Mentally.
And then on what level? On the level of society, the way you view the norm?
No. Stop the hogwash. Do you feel that the drugs that you did use in your earlier lifetime confused you, altered your mind, juggled it, scrambled it, made you see things differently? Stay on that level if you can.
Maybe I find a spirit of caveman think through brain.
Let me try it again. Do you think the drugs you used hurt you?
Drugs hurt me. No, I don't think the drugs have hurt me. If I overdone it, I think it would.
You don't want to be anybody's leader, do you?
No.
Never did want to be anybody's leader?
Don't like attention.
Then why do you...
Most insecure people need attention. I was
just going to say, then, if you don't want attention, why all your life have you kept waving your arms saying, "Hey, look at me"?
That's what I've been doing all my life.
Well, I would have to say that a young man...
See if I got that documented.
...who by the time he's 20 years old has been in and out of jails and reform schools for a variety of offenses that include wife-beating,
Wife beating, now that's... Never whipped my old lady.
Didn't you?
No, I punched my mother out once.
Oh, you did? All right, well, we'll call it mother beating. Forging checks.
But she was wrong, and she lied to me and beat me for my money, and she didn't do right.
Forging checks, car theft. I mean, these are ways of waving your arms and saying, "Look at me, give me some attention."
Yeah.
Yet you say you don't want any attention. Now, Charles, that's a contradiction.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, over a period of about 20 years, I imagine you'd want to change something. I'm not very wise to many things, but I am wise to one thing, you know.
What's that?
Well, I'm not going to tell you.
Okay. You punched your mother. Did you hate your mother?
No, I love her. She's a good girl.
What about your wife? You were married once, weren't you?
Yeah.
How'd that go? Why'd you want to get married? That's kind of conventional. That's kind of normal. That's kind of in the rut, as you say, to get married, isn't it?
That's why I got married.
Married for sex was the reason you got married.
Yeah, that's what I didn't know what was happening. I knew there was something happening, but no one would tell me, so I had to find out. You know, I didn't have books like you guys, Playboys and stuff in them days. I had to find out for myself.
Why do you think us guys are all Playboys? We keep
man, I didn't say you were Playboy. I was talking about Playboy magazine type thoughts, man.
Okay. You had a son by that marriage, didn't you?
Yeah, I got a kid somewhere.
Do you think about him?
About as much as my father did me.
So two wrongs make a right in Charles.
No, I didn't say there's anything wrong with the way my dad's been taking care of me. He lets me live. I'm alive.
I remember you saying, or being quoted in the courtroom in Los Angeles, as saying, "The children who came at you with knives are your children."
Yeah, I didn't raise them. You raised them.
You are the ones who kicked them out. You are responsible for what they've done.
That's right. Just as much as I am.
So you, in my mind, were criticizing society for kicking their children out. And yet I've just seen you sit here and say, "Yeah, I got a kid somewhere."
Yeah.
How can you criticize other people for kicking their kids out, and you did the same thing?
Difference, many levels, difference. See, my old lady left me and run off with a truck driver. She said, "Let's steal a car and go to California." And I said, "Man, I ain't going to steal a car and go to California and go back to jail." She says, "We won't get caught." We didn't get caught. Just I got caught. She didn't get caught. So then she had a kid, and then some truck driver came along, and I was a green kid, and I didn't know what I was doing, you know. So she said, you know, I got a ride from you. I'll see you later. She took off and got married to somebody else. You know, she's a good girl.
And besides the son that you had in your marriage, you've got, what, 4 other children somewhere?
I don't think I've been responsible for as much as you people want to lay on me.
Well, how many children do you have, Charles?
How many children do I have? I don't know. I have lots of children, man. In fact, sometimes I even think you're a child.
But you just said you don't have any children, you don't have any family in the context of the ranch. I'm talking about children that are your natural children.
Children that are my natural ego?
No, children.
Oh, children? I would divide one child from the other and say,
all right, somewhere out there, somewhere, there's at least one son that we know of that's your child, who's probably about 25 or 26 years old right now.
Right?
Yeah. Look in that camera. What do you say to that kid? What do you say to your son out there? He's watching his old man on television. Maybe the first time he's ever seen his old man, with his face all carved up and his eyes glowering. You talk to that kid. What are you going to say to him?
You got to catch it on your own, boy. Training's hard. The road's rough.
And that's it.
That's all I knew. That's all anyone ever told me.
All right.
And you want to hear something?
Yeah?
He'll do it better than me.
Do what?
Whatever he does. He'll do it a little better. Kids do, don't they?
Sometimes.
Yeah. That's what makes them such a gas. They always seem to get through.
There was a story about a celebrity hit.
Was you ever a kid once?
Absolutely. Still am in many ways, but not your way.
Oh, my way? I don't know what my way is. Everybody keeps telling me I got all these things. I read the other day where I had magical powers, and I told everybody in the chapel, I said, zap, 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 zap. I said, where's my magical powers? Well, you can't believe what you read in the press. I ain't got no magical powers, mystical trips, and all that kind of crap. Yeah, it's kind of silly. You know, I'm getting witches and devils, and one guy come up and said, I heard you said you were Jesus. I said, no, man, I ain't said nothing. He said, I'm glad. He said, I'm damn glad. I said, why? He said, I know you ain't him. I said, how do you know? He said, because I am. I said, okay. But I mean, you know, I've been in the nut ward for 10 years, so you can't expect me to rationally take this thing serious.
Don't you think you belong in the nut ward?
Well, it's all right. I could be.
I mean, but don't you belong there?
I belong where I'm allowed to go, man. Like, you know, I belong.
Let me nail down one other real simple one. Now, listen to how simple this is, Charles. There was a story in the media back when the trial was going on that Charles Manson had a celebrity hit list. I don't know who was on it. Maybe there never was such a list, but was there a list of people, famous people, that you thought about harassing, bothering?
If I wanted to harass them, I just wouldn't watch their TV show.
Talk to me about your life in prison in terms of your being in isolation. You are not on what is called the main line. You're not with the prison population here. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? I don't feel about it.
Would you rather not be in isolation?
Oh, I've been trying to get on the main line. I've been trying to get to the prison for the last 13 years.
Why?
Why? Walk around, play some handball, play a little guitar, do my number, do my time like any convict does, like I've always done, like my mind has been set to do, like my past lives have been in jail, doing time in jail. In fact, when I got out, I just got outside and sat down. I wasn't going nowhere. I gave up, see.
If you were on the main line, wouldn't you be exposed to some dangers?
Come on, man. If you're thinking exposure to danger, then that danger you're thinking is coming around you.
Well, look what happened to James Earl Ray. You heard about that, didn't you?
James Earl Ray's got his problems. I got mine.
But you heard what happened to him. Have you heard? He got stuck.
Yeah.
22
people
times.
died in India too.
Got stuck.
And some other people died in Hawaii.
You wouldn't be
people
scared
dying all over.
All right, you wouldn't be frightened or afraid then of the prison population trying to make a hit on you?
Man, I've been staying alive in prison this long without no help.
What is S ward?
It's a nut ward.
What goes on in there?
Whatever goes on in there. You'd have to ask the people responsible for that.
Well, do they do things to you in there?
Do they do things to me?
Mm-hmm.
That depends.
They give you medication here?
Yeah, they give you medication here.
You on medication now?
No. No, it took me about a few years to get off of medication. The medication has toned me down quite a bit. Whole lot. That's the reason I like the desert. Because when I get out in the desert, then I can let it out and say, if I see you within 50 miles, you will know something. Yeah, I used to love that desert. Out in the woods and things. I didn't know you could get out in the woods for 30 years.
How do you feel about spending the rest of your life in prison?
Well, we're all our own prisons. We each are our own wardens, and we do our own times. We get stuck in our own little trips, and we kind of judge ourselves the way we do. You know, I can't judge nobody else. The best thing I can do is try to judge myself and live with that. See, what other people do is not really my affair unless they approach me with it and want me to do something about it. Then I'll take into consideration what has to be done. But other than that, I just try to do my number and do my time. Get out on the main line, play some tennis, walk around, make the chow a little better, you know. And then there's a possibility the preacher could teach me something, because the preacher, the reverend, is quite a guy, and I'm finding that got 2 or 3 doctors here that's got a lot of sense. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, they got a lot of sense in my world, you know. And I've tried to shake 2 or 3 of them, but they're pretty smart. And then they got some pretty good inmates here, trying to get out and work their lives into a decent sort of way. Trying to promote harmony, pull ourselves together, be right, do right, and have the understanding of what it is in a congenial form for world peace. There's a lot of people working for world peace.
Let's assume that one day you were paroled. Let's just
paroled.
Well, let's just make believe. Do you ever think you will be?
Yeah. Do I ever think I will be? Well, I've never been paroled before. I went up to the board, and they never would. They said I was incorrigible. And not only was I incorrigible, but that I'd never grow up. And I kind of agreed with them. I had a war.
Well, let's just play make believe here for a second. Let's make believe. Let's make believe you're getting out tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Okay.
And tomorrow creeps this petty pace. Yeah.
Would you go after anybody, Charles?
After anybody?
Do you feel let me try another way. Do you feel you have any scores to settle with anybody on the outside?
Let me think. Do I have any scores out there? And we're making believe, right? Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, buddy. Well, I don't rightly know. I'm stupid to the point to where I'm not really sure. And if you'll ask the question again, maybe the answer will come to you. What was it again?
If you got out tomorrow, do you have any scores to settle on the outside?
Scores? You mean people that have done me wrong?
Or you feel you've done you wrong?
Oh, that feel that I've done them wrong?
No, feel that they've done you wrong.
Oh.
That you feel have done you wrong.
Oh, well, most people do themselves wrong.
But would you want to go? Would you want to go get anybody?
No.
If you got out, no.
No, they push. See what they do. See, they take all that bad and they push it off on each other. I told the dude, "You're doing this to yourself, man. You know, I've been sitting in there, and in other words, I'm in the cell, right? And he let me out, and I walk around, the guy says, if you don't do this, we're going to lock you back up. I said, okay, I don't care anyway. I done gave up that thought. Prison's in your mind, man, like, you know.
Okay.
You can sit in the cell, and the guy said, you're in prison? I said, no, I'm just here. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm just sitting here waiting for these people to get done doing what they're doing so I can get out.
Do you have a television set? Do you watch television?
Yeah, I used to watch it a little bit, but it kind of looks, I don't really like it that much.
Okay. Well, what about newspapers? Do you get newspapers?
No, I don't bother with those. I know that they're jiving there.
All right. What, radio? Listen to the radio?
I listen to a Hearts and Space program. Yeah. I like that. And the rest of it's just like a bunch of... There's no...
What about your music?
I get some classical music on the 98 station that's saying something.
Okay. But what about your own music? I remember reading that you at one time had a recording stint at a studio in Hollywood, and that you liked guitar and you wrote music or sang music.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do that. Yeah, I do that. But the way I do it ain't the same way you guys do it. And the way I do it scares you guys. So I didn't want to scare you guys out of the neighborhood right away. So I just took a can and started banging on it, you know. Mm-hmm. But we used to have some cosmic gatherings back in the mountains that would probably shake a Mormon tabernacle choir's eardrums.
You said the kind of music you play scares people. Why shouldn't people be scared by you?
There's only one person you can be scared of, and that's yourself. Afraid of what? Losing your bank account? Afraid of your wife going away? You have all those things. I'm not afraid of losing my watch or someone taking my money or robbing me. I went down to Mexico in the 50s and down where the Yankees was, and they said, man, you don't go down where the Yankees are. He said, they're terrible. I said, why? He said, well, they don't like people like you. I said, well, they didn't say anything.
Yeah, but I asked that question in the context that whether you believe it or not, there are a lot of people on the outside that think about the possibility of you coming out of here, and they're genuinely scared of you.
Oh, boy, I might just make dust. Everything. Terrible. One little guy. Terrible. Ooh. Boy, how insecure are we as human beings? Put all our fear on one little guy. You're afraid to let him out. He might break all the toys.
Why do you say little guy?
Because I'm not the guy you trying to make out of me. That's not me. That's some guy in somebody's imagination that wanted to make a couple $100 million for himself. He got rich. He had a good game going. He had a better game going than I did, but he had a good mother to help him. She helped him in a nice game. I was kind of over on the sideline. See, I had to get around that game and look over the tracks. Man.
Okay, now, here we go on mother again for a second. You said he had a nice mother to help him. Does that mean you did not have a nice mother to help you?
Oh, well, I imagine I got a whole lot of nice mothers that would help me. If I would help them, you know. How much would you help yourself?
When I asked you why you got married, you said for sex.
That's when I was 20 years old.
Yeah. What kind, this is funny, what kind of sex life is there for Charles in this prison?
Well, I do a bit now and then. Mm-hmm. I try to hide it, not to embarrass other people. But I've been doing it ever since I was 10. I get to thinking, here I'm an old man sitting in the cell. That's the damnedest thing I ever seen, you know. It looks like I grow up, but I really don't know how yet. I'm learning. You're teaching me how to grow up.
Do you miss women?
Certainly. My goodness. Yeah, damn right. Yeah.
What do you think of women?
Oh, I like them. Yeah, they're nice. They're put together well and everything, and they're soft and spongy. Yeah, they're nice. As long as they keep their mouth shut and do what they're supposed to do.
Why do you say that?
Because that's what a woman's supposed to do.
Keep her mouth shut and do what she's supposed to do?
Sure.
Who taught you that?
Well, I don't want her snitching on me.
New York for a couple of seconds, but we shall continue the interview with Charles Manson at the California prison facility in Vacaville in just a couple of moments here. There is a man who's considered by prison authorities to be Charles Manson's closest friend in this world. His name is Newell Emmons, and he has spent the last year researching and beginning to write the autobiography of Charles Manson, which will be called Manson by Manson. More than anyone else, Emmons knows when Manson is telling the truth and when he's lying. He is back tonight with us here in New York, and he's been watching the interview with us, and I want to get his views on what we've seen so far before we continue with Charles Manson. So we'll continue with Mr. Emmons from New York in a couple of seconds, then go back to Vacaville right after this for the NBC television stations. Manson in the California prison shortly, but here in New York there's a gentleman who, in the words of some authorities, knows Charles Manson better than most people. His name is Newell Emmons, who went to see Manson about writing a book a year ago, and they've spent over 300 hours since. We hired Newell Emmons as a consultant for tonight's program, and he's here this evening to discuss the interview and help us understand what is going on in the mind of Charles Manson. Before that, Mr. Emmons, could you just briefly trace your relationship with Charles Manson? Where did you meet him, and how did you develop a relationship with him?
Well, I've had a similar childhood as Manson, only unlike him with nobody, I did have people. So I met Manson in jail, in the federal prison, I guess, at Terminal Island in the middle 56 or so. And so anyway, not that we lined up together, but I was a few years older than he, but I did know him, and smaller. And again, we were both repeats, so then I ran into him again in McNeil Island years later, 59, I guess. And I came home in 63 and since have straightened out my life. And after the family was raised and whatever, I began a writing career, mostly journalistic stuff, sports and newspaper items.
How can we tell when Charles Manson is conning and when he's on track? I was mystified by this man, as you know.
Well, and prior to the interview, I think that he felt that the questioning line was going to be a little bit different. And I have a rapport with Manson where we talk almost as normal as you and I are talking right now. And I think when Manson is really unsure of himself, uneasy, he performs. And then also, but as far as conning, he does con. He pulls your leg to a certain extent, but if you've noticed, he did not lie. He evaded when he did not want to answer. So that's a con or a joke in a way. He plays games with people.
Have you and he discussed this evasiveness that surfaces in him from time to time, and is he more level when you're talking privately without cameras on than he was during this?
Oh, very definitely. You've got to remember, we say a year, or you said a year, but it began in August of 1979 when I first began and renewed our acquaintance. And at first he denied me. The book wasn't his ideal at all. He resents being a victim, as he told you in the interview in several places, that he didn't do the things and it didn't come down as said. I don't think, in essence, Manson denies that he's guilty of things and he knows that he belongs in jail, but the way it was convicted and came down, and in his mind he has been served an injustice himself. But we have a very rational relationship. I mean, there are days when I don't gather any material, but I accept that and come back again another day.
Have you gotten him to the point where he has admitted or discussed any complicity or planning in the deaths of the people in Southern California? Or does he shy away from it, as he did here when we got into this lobby ankle?
Well, there again, in this interview, he says he referred to you as a prosecuting attorney. I mean, and his thought, well, some of the questioning line was very similar to a prosecuting attorney's line, so he rebelled against it immediately. And we have our moments of rebellion, but yes, but it's his version, and it is contradictory to Helter Skelter. I mean, not the deaths. I mean, they're there for everybody to see and to know that it happened. However, there are many, many circumstances that sort of destroys the motive and the image and everything that previous books have put out about him. And if I might go on, well, that's where my book is motivated. It isn't in defense of Manson. I say not in defense. I think in the first portion of it, I do reach a certain amount of sympathy, just illustrating a childhood and how he was unlike me. I had parents that cared, and I had a trade and probably a better understanding. I don't say that the people in jail raised me like he does, and he is a victim of that. But I lost my thoughts. You'll have to come back to me.
No, you were saying that that your book is not intended to be a defense of Manson or an apologia for him, but that you understand him in terms of his upbringing without a family, and you're sympathetic towards that. But then I think probably you part company as his story develops.
Right. Thank you. And anyway, well, he, by his own admission, he doesn't want to be, and he himself has become a considerable victim of the images. And you also said on your Wednesday night mention of the show for Friday night that you didn't find a mystic person or someone with powers. Well, the book brings that out very clearly too, and Manson also resents those earlier publications, and he feels, and I feel also, and I bring it out in my book, that more injustice has been done because of similar books. That particular book that we mentioned, Helter Skelter, has done more to create the image and the followers and everything that still persists.
Except that Helter Skelter just didn't come out of the blue. Vincent Bugliosi didn't make that up out of whole cloth. I mean, there was a lot of conversation that was tracked among the people involved in those killings where that thing kept coming out over and over again.
And none of it came out until Susan Atkins made her first confession. And then once heard, it's almost as Manson himself projects, power of suggestion and so on. We've heard it before, and this is our best way out. And
do you think there's anything today, Newell, like a Manson cult? Does he get letters, to your knowledge, from people who see him as a cult leader or somebody that they would like to pattern themselves after?
Only after reading the books that have been written previously, and he does get letters. The institution will verify it, and I've been recipient of letters. When my first media release on Manson was, I guess, March of '81, and the paper I worked for, the Ukiah Journal, naturally you don't give your own address, but I was a recipient of mail wanting to know how they could get in touch with Manson and so on, and other people's, other than the ones I got, right to the institution.
Have you ever gotten a letter from a purported Manson follower saying your book better be fair to him or else? Any threatening letters?
It's gone further than that. One particular letter to the Ukiah Journal was from Hawaii, so I answered it, what's your interest, what's your concern? And I ended up meeting the party that wrote the letter, and where were you at on this Manson thing and so on. And a little pride, or a little, I won't say pride, but a little vanity in my writing and a potential book coming up. I mentioned where I was at and what I was trying to project. She says, you're the luckiest son of a gun in the world. Because she was prepared to waste me if I was going to be more detrimental to Manson than the previous books had been. So it is an easy role, and I'm doing it for Manson as well as for myself. And well, there's a lot of things, because he says he's where he belongs in a sense.
Do you think he is?
Yes, I do think he is at this point, because he's probably bitter today than he was in '69 through the things that he's gone through.
Bill Lemons, thank you for being here in New York tonight. We're going back to Vacaville, California, and more with Charles Manson right after these announcements.
He is?
You know, you were sentenced to the gas chamber, and then they modified the death penalty. Were you happy when that was done?
Was I happy when what was done?
When you found out that you weren't going to the gas chamber.
You're talking about dying. Now, it gets me nervous.
Why?
Did you have any thoughts about something? Was you wanting to go anywhere?
Were you happy when you found out you weren't going to go to the gas chamber, Charles?
I knew I wasn't going to go to the gas chamber because I hadn't done anything wrong.
You scared to die?
Sometimes I feel I'm scared to live. Living is what scares me. Dying is easy. Getting up every day and going through this again and again is hard. See, I'm carrying a heavy thought. See, the thought I'm carrying is very heavy. Like I'm on a football team and everybody's. And I'm a little guy. I don't have no home team. You got all the home. I got one cheerleader or one coach. See, you got me at a disadvantage because I'm on your ground. See. So, and this is your street, I reckon. You got the cameras and the money and the things. But you can believe me that Bully Osie's had you all on a rib. And all them guys that sold you most of that stuff sold you a bunch of things that weren't real. Not to me. We used to have games we would play. On the movie set, we would take on different people. I'd be Riff Raff Rackus. And Steve would be John Jones, just come in from Minneapolis and driving the truck. And we'd just take other people and play act other people. And then we lost track of who we were. And it went off into other dimensions and levels of thought and understanding and comprehension that were beyond most people's minds, functions, computers, data. So all I did was watch and learn everything I could from everybody I ever met. Then when I got out of prison, I just walked around. I didn't tell nobody to do nothing. I said, do what you want to do. Don't tell me what to do. I don't like people telling me what to do. They just come from a place where they told me what to do all my life. You know, I want to find out what to do for myself, you know. I never did. Not yet. But I was going to take a trade one of these days, maybe learn to be a welder or something. Till I can get to the front gate anyway.
Where people were killed. How did you get involved in that drama?
Well, I was born illegitimately. That put me on the other side of the law. I've been an outlaw ever since I was born. I went to reform school when I was about 10, and I learned to box and cry, and I learned to do all the things that you do in reform school. Then I escaped there a bunch of times, and I went to prison, and I learned everything that you do in prison. And I talked to all the guys and asked them everything they knew, and they told me all the things they knew. And then I went to the end of it, and then the old man would be ready to die, and he'd say, well, son, sincerity is the best gimmick, remember that. And I'd say, all right, be sincere, that'll win it. He said, that's it. Sincerity and honesty, he said, it'll do it. It'll trick them every time. I said, well, sincere and honesty, I never tried that. I tried everything else, but maybe I'll try sincere and honesty. So then I looked in the book, and it says, the wages of sin is death. Now I figured, well, I don't want to die, so maybe I have been sinful here. Maybe I am wrong. Maybe I'll take a look at my life and say, well, I'm going to change it and start all over. You know, and I know I go to God and I say, hey, man, you're going to forgive me? And he's going to say, what do? You forgive you? I mean, what'd you come to me for? Forgive yourself, man. Don't be bothering me. You know, and I think, well, he must be a big, mighty God, man. He just, you know, he ain't got time. You got to make an appointment or something, you know. So I see the whole aspect of the whole trip for children to play, you know. And then I get stuck in the game of playing the goat here, or the lamb, or the some other trip. I was a teddy bear, and then I was a goofball, and whatever. And what is the real one? Where's the real one? I don't know where the real one is. It's in a nut ward somewhere.
The real Charles Manson, hardly the glowering, sinister, and assertive mastermind that was pictured of his life before and after the Tate LaBianca killings in Los Angeles. The real Charles Manson appears to be confused and frightened. Confused, if you recall his admonition that we look at ourselves to better understand him. Yet each time I pressed him on details about the murders, Manson could not even look at himself, nor his relationships with his mother, his wife, and his son. And he's frightened. During our conversation, you recall Manson said, "I'm living, aren't I? They let me live, didn't they?" Followed by that little nervous laugh. The man does not want to die. I think he's frightened by death, and I think that he is as scared of us as we are of him. I get the feeling he'll be quite content to spend the rest of his life playing mind games in the jailhouse. And I also believe that Charles Manson knows exactly what he's done. A word about what you might think was my belligerence with Manson. I lived in Los Angeles all during this trial. I still live there from time to time, in a quiet neighborhood just across the canyon from where Sharon Tate and the others were murdered. At work by day, I broadcast the 6 o'clock news in Los Angeles, the whole story of the trial, the shaved heads, the car foreheads, the harangues and threats in the courtroom. And by night, I tried to assure my young daughter that, yes, even though the murder house was close by, Charles Manson and company were under lock and key, and there would be no creepy crawlers in the night. So it was that Manson I was listening to, and not the one who now sits alone in a faraway prison, where, barring a most perverse miracle, he will spend the rest of his life. Thank you for watching, and good night, everybody.